Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next YouTube video. This one is going to be my kind of review slash thoughts on Attack on Titan Season 1, the anime. So specifically, I suppose I'm going to be primarily talking about the dub because obviously I most recently watched it on the DVD releases. I have seen the sub, but the dub is definitely more recent in my mind. So yeah, I planned minorly to kind of review every episode almost, but I think what I'm going to do is just basically confine it to this video. Maybe I'll do something more specific about each episode closer to the premiere of season 2 of the anime. But so yeah, just be aware that when it does come out, I will be reviewing it on my channel, Attack on Titan Season 2. But yeah, this was the big anime. Like, while Korra was coming out, this was the big anime, basically. Like, this, more than anything, got, like, at least Tumblr talking about anime. Like, when as I said, when Korra was coming out, it was this and Attack on Titan and Sherlock whenever it was on the air. Like, those were, like, the three big shows that I saw on Tumblr in terms of fan bases. So this was a huge thing. There's One Punch Man this year is kind of coming close, but because of the low number of episodes, because it's not as really character plot driven, I don't think it quite has the same like edge that this show does. But this definitely deserves to be talked about, and I saw it when it first came out. Like I only got on board about halfway through, and then afterwards I was watching the subbed episodes from about, 13, 14 onwards. So I got into the anime fairly early on and stuff like that, and I was pretty excited for the dub to come out. So yeah, I've seen this a couple of times now, the all of season 1, and I've only now coming around to give my thoughts on it. So overall, Attack on Titan, I want to make it clear, I really like it, but I wouldn't consider it one of my absolute favourite animes ever. I think there are some problems with character development and pacing of some of the arcs, but overall, what I really like about it, the main positive I would have about this, is the world building. There are mysteries about why things are the way they are in the world in this show that are fascinating. Obviously, basically, most of them revolve around what are the Titans, where did they come from, how did humans come to live in walls, where did the walls come from, all this sort of stuff. Like, really fascinating stuff. And then, as you progress through the episodes and begin to discover various bits and pieces about this, like discovering that some humans can turn into Titans, and you're like, does that mean that that's the origin of every single Titan because of the way the Titan shifter power works? Like, lots of great stuff like that. But again, like, the problem is that none of that is really talking too much about the characters specifically, and then when you are talking about a character, most of the time it's just a specific power of that character, not really just the character and who they are as an individual. But yeah, I can definitely see why this show got so popular, in that it is different, at least initially, very different than a lot of anime that do come out, in that it's different than a Naruto, a Bleach, One Piece, that sort of thing. In that, yes, it initially seems like it's going to be that way. It's going to be like, Eren is our new Naruto. He's going to go on this mission. He's going to be eventually, over time, develop these new skills in the Scouting Legion and become and take down Titans, and we're going to learn about the world as we go on. But like, very quickly, like episode 5, that completely changes with regards to what they do with a bunch of the characters in terms of killing them off, and at least for an episode, leading you to believe that they've killed off the main character, but it actually more acts to reveal the fact that our main character is actually a Titan shifter, and that in itself is an interesting kind of setup for his character. But as I'll get into a bit later on, I don't feel they go the places with that reveal that I think they perhaps should have. But it says in the back of one of these, in terms of the review, on the back of the box, of a kind of short review, it says io9.com calls Attack on Titan Japan's equivalent of The Walking Dead. And I've never seen The Walking Dead. I don't really have any interest in that. But in the sense of like this being somewhat similar to like a zombie show, that actually makes complete sense in that the Titans are just really different types of zombies in that they are these basically creatures, beings that they don't listen to reason. You can't talk them down really. They seem relentless. Humans don't seem to be able to fight them naturally one on one, and it requires really skilled soldiers of the military with specialized weaponry to take them down. To kill them, it requires an extremely specific method of killing, and otherwise they're kind of invincible. Like any damage they take, they either just keep going or heal very quickly. So in that sense, it makes complete sense that that's exactly what it is. There is a mystery behind why the zombies, why the Titans are the way they are, and you follow that through. So that's kind of what it is. It's kind of a horror, but they don't really play on like really fear too much. But it's definitely a show where the characters are aware of how against the odds they are at all times. There is a sense of dread and a general tone of like humanity could fall at any moment throughout this series, which is excellent. And the music and how kind of orchestral, kind of operatic it is really amazing at showing that. Like when these big battles happen, like it's a big deal that these humans are risking their lives for humanity. Like it's not just to protect themselves, it's to protect like the species, and that comes through. There are really epic moments throughout this series that come from that. But yeah, the thing with that is also is that people consider this to be very different, and it is. But I think the show very quickly does become more similar to these other anime in that, yes, there are specific moments where they decide they're going to kill off a bunch of characters. And that leads you to believe that any character could die at any point. But it does very quickly break down into, okay, these are our characters. These are the ones that aren't just going to be killed off at any point in time. And they just kind of bring in a new batch of characters to then kill off, like they do at Levi's squad, in that initially you think that they're meant to be really cool because they introduce them like this person has gone on this many missions, has taken down this many Titans, solo kills and stuff like that. They list them all off, give them names, and then kill them. And it's just like cool at the time, but then you look back on it and it's just like you introduce them to kind of go with your thing that you're doing and that you're killing off characters. Whereas like Levi, is if they are going to kill him off, there's going to be a build to it, a really big build. They haven't obviously done anything like that yet, but you can tell that he's not just going to randomly die in the middle of some episode. There's going to be a sense of kind of big sacrifice to it. Like they do with the death of Eren, kind of like that. Once you see the rest of his squad killed off in episode 5, you get the sense of like when he goes to save Armin, that's kind of what's going to happen, and it's a big build, it's tragic, and then they kind of switch it around. But realistically, the rest of Eren's squad dying, the death of, I think Marco is the character a lot of characters bring up in terms of, oh wow, they killed off that character, but we didn't really get to know him that well. And like by the end of the series, yes, there's the death of Levi's squad, but primarily you have a bunch of named characters that you know a little bit better that aren't just going to be killed off at any point in time. And so the whole anyone could die at any point does go away pretty quickly, in that, like, Eren, Mikasa, and Armin are our three main characters that we followed from the beginning. Levi, I think Jean is probably the most important of the like rest of the kind of the Eren's class of recruits and stuff like that, So you have them, and then there are definitely other characters who they could perhaps kill at any point in time, like Connie, Sasha, who haven't been developed as much, who they maybe could do that with. But, you know, I it's a really interesting way to get you into the show, but it hasn't, at least from what I've seen in terms of what's meant to happen in season two, they don't really go down that road. Like, we're not going to see like tons of main characters killed off, I think, like immediately in the next couple of episodes that we're expecting. So it's a sense of like, yes, it is different than a lot of anime that comes out, but I don't think it it doing that, it killing off a couple of characters instantly makes it the greatest thing of all time. In that these characters, it's not like we knew any of them all that well. So there's that. But I think, it's a show that uses death very well in that you have characters react to all these deaths happening. And the fact that the deaths that they do for these characters are so kind of just like that. Like, there's no focus, there's no really emotional kind of sacrifice about it. It's just, no, that guy got slammed against a tree and is now dead. This character got their head bit off or something like that. They don't. I don't think the show focuses or tries to accentuate the violence overly so, but just the fact that you kind of have a rough idea of how they died, and it was quite brutal and sudden, and they their sacrifice didn't help anyone all that much. That's the big thing, and like in some of the first episodes, that the kind of group of Scouting Legion people that die, taking down that Titan in that kind of opening scene, basically, they didn't really help humanity by like having that many people die, and then like the kind of first kind of time they go out as like like Eren on the scouting mission, and how kind of wrong it goes, how many people get killed, you kind of understand like, oh, like that's what they're going for here, that humanity is absolutely up against the odds. And so in that sense, they use death effectively in the show. I don't think the whole any character can die thing is as big of a deal as people make it out to be. But like the death of Eren, and I suppose Mikasa as well, his mother, at the end of the first episode, is a big moment, because it's a character driving moment for Mikasa and Eren, in that it's her final words to Mikasa are like, protect Eren, protect both of you. And it's the drive for Eren to get revenge against all the Titans. And you think that's what it's going to be. It's just this revenge thing where he just hates these things throughout, and he's going to go against them in that way. So, they do that stuff extremely well. Just deaths out of nowhere, kind of meaningless. They didn't really get their chance to shine. Like, I think it's very telling that, like, I think it's episode 4 transitioning into episode 5, where Eren's like, okay, we're trained now, we're a squad, we're going to go out there and we're going to win. And then all of a sudden the Colossal Titan returns, and it's just like, oh, we can't do anything. Like, Eren shows how skilled he has become by doing reasonably well against the Colossal Titan. But once it kind of breaks down and they're on the run, the Titans are in once again, you see the kind of overconfidence, the kind of fact that they can't do as much as they thought they could. When his basically whole squad gets wiped out, he has to sacrifice himself to save Armin. And the fact that it takes Eren being revealed to be a Titan shifter to even save them at the Battle of Trost is extremely telling, showing you that humanity needs to be so much more clever, so much more intelligent than the Titans in terms of planning everything out perfectly, inventing new technology. That's the only way they can win, because just relying on the kind of warriors one-on-one, yes, for characters like Mikasa and Levi that can work, but for the most part, you're just going to get a lot of people killed trying to take out a couple of Titans. And definitely that sort of progress, characters like Hange, I don't really know how you pronounce her name, but as like a scientist character, like investigating the Titans, like the best way to kill them, the best way to stop them, to ease the killing of them and capture of them. That's an interesting kind of subplot going on throughout. And I suppose going back to the Eren character reveal, it is a big moment. Like, anyone, especially when it was first airing, was talking about the show, they always said, watch it up until episode 5. And if you have no interest after episode 5, you probably won't like the show. But if you're in any way interested after that, continue to watch. All this stuff will get expanded on. And that's definitely the case. 5 is a very important episode because it obviously is the death of Eren, but it also, in many ways, acts as the awakening of like Eren's Titan powers and a kind of shift in the story in that this character who wanted revenge for his mother has now found out that he mysteriously can transform into a Titan. And I don't think they explored all that well his thoughts on that. I may have to rewatch the series again. It's been a couple of months since I've seen any of it, but I felt like they needed a moment where he kind of reflected on the fact of like, my mission was to kill all the Titans, and now I'm kind of one myself. I'm different in that I'm sort of in control when I'm a Titan, and I can use this to kill other Titans. But to some extent, I felt like they should have addressed like how he really feels about being a Titan, and they didn't do that all that much. The focus was more after that point on the fact that everyone else was kind of like, you're one of them, you're the enemy, and them having to prove to everyone that Eren can be trusted to help humanity, he can gain control of the power, and be a huge asset to humanity. And that marks a clear shift in the story from being just humanity versus the Titans, that's it, to being kind of like, there's a mystery around the fact that some humans can transform into Titans that may give you a hint as to what Titans in general are, because when a Titan shifter transforms into a Titan, their actual body is located in the back of the neck, and that's the same point that you kill all Titans. So is it the case of like, if you use the Titan thing too much and stay in that form for too long, you eventually are just stuck in that form, and it's just the human becomes the Titan, and the only way to kill a Titan is to kill the human by like cutting through their body, which is located there in every Titan. Like, is that the case, or is it just that there's a difference between most Titans and then most humans? And then if that is the case, you know, getting into some of the mysteries here, is it the, in terms of the history, what is the origin of the Titans then? Who was the first human to transform into a Titan? How is this power passed on? It seems we know from some of the Titans, if they have some of them have special powers. Some of them are really big. Some of them are small. Some of them have armor on them, and so on. So what's the deal with that? In that, yeah, like you see the difference between like the female Titan, Annie's Titan, and Eren's Titan, who he's kind of standard, you know, normal size, kind of in proportion, strong, can do stuff, but he doesn't really have a special power. Whereas Annie is skilled herself, but has some abilities, like she has certain parts of her body that she can armor up. And then the armored Titan is like just a really powerful Titan that's fully armored. The Colossal Titan is huge, but can't really move that well. There's a lot of stuff about that. And then like, what's with the walls? If humanity in the past was basically driven to extinction by the Titans, how did they just randomly form walls to protect themselves in the middle of an extinction event? Like, there's a lot of stuff to be explained in terms of the backstory, and I really like that, trying to piece it together with the various parts that they give. Like, the ending of this season is wonderful, with the kind of piece of the wall falling out and it being revealed that there are Titans in the walls. We don't know the full like scope of what it means, or like, is it just this one section of wall, or is it the whole thing? But that's interesting, because they do mention that like Titans require sunlight to kind of stay active, and without that they kind of just become inactive. So obviously, an inactive Titan surrounded by stonework to make a wall, like, makes sense, like, to be the basis for that. But what was this event that potentially got so many big Titans together to the point where they could move them and effectively construct a near perfect kind of like circular wall around them? Like, there's a lot of fascinating things in the world building, and as I said at the start, absolutely my favorite part of this show: the mysteries, the world building, the history that they set up with regards to the mystery about who the Titans are. And I like that they're aware that that's the big thing, and that, you know, the whole mystery about Aaron's father, what he was up to. There was like a needle, like what did he do with Aaron? Did he inject him with something? Is that the event that made Aaron a Titan shifter? And then that just gives so much information about like who is Aaron's father, because there's like mysteries around like the fact that he once cured like the whole everyone with the plague. He was absent at the time when the attack took place and then came back, and then there was like a time period where like he is missing, presumed like dead, but he left Aaron with the key to their cellar of their house, which has information on stuff, which is ultimately like the overall goal of the series, to get to that cellar to, as we assume, learn the origin of the Titans and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really great stuff going on there with world building. Getting into some of the characters is a way to, I suppose, get towards the end of the video. Aaron, as I said, I like him as a character at a base level, in that in the early episodes you see he's this over eager, young boy, but he has this mentality, he has this idea about the way the world is that's fascinating, because he, more than almost anyone, seems aware of like the problems that they have here, that humanity is, they're fine with just living in this one town, in these kind of walled, kind of segregated cities. And he's asking the question of like, why aren't we like really heavily trying to like be free? We're just as bad as like livestock. We're just living like cattle, just accepting things. Why is that the case? And you see like in the episodes that he is being kind of maybe overbearing about this, and especially like Mikasa later on, when like she kind of smacks him about this, is just kind of saying to him like, right now you can't do anything about this. By all means have your philosophy about the way you think, but until you yourself can actively do something about this, like, shut up about it. Just accept that for now we're refugees. For now we have to take what we can get and just accept it. And it was a really cool moment between Mikasa and Eren, and it really kind of set him on this path of like, okay, I need to train. I need to be the one to kind of promote this idea that we need to become free, and that's where the whole him wanting to join the Scouting Legion comes from. Like that as like an early character arc towards him, joining the military, becoming a member of the Scouting Legion, the most dangerous kind of one that barely anyone joins, is really good. That's exceptionally well done. I think his character changes a bit, obviously, drastically because of the whole Titan Shifter thing. I'd wish they'd almost had an arc before Trost, where you got to see Eren, how he is just normally in battle. Because that's the thing, we never get to see him really take down a Titan outside of his Titan form. So it's this point where like he was ranked, I think, 5, and he got there through sheer willpower. There are people who were more skilled than him that he managed to beat out in the rankings, and he was like the 5th best of his group, and that's a big deal. But we never see that, because once the Titan Shifter reveal happens, it's all focused on that it's all about him training to be that, him making the decisions about when and where to use that, as opposed to him fighting. And they kind of lose the whole revenge against the Titans kind of plot a little bit. And in season 2, that's something I hope we at some point get to see him use the Titan Shifter ability when needed, but be confident that he's skilled enough, we assume, to take down Titans himself. and I'd like to see him gain experience in doing that. Just normally to become a more well-rounded character, in that right now I think it's too focused on this incredible power Titan Shifter, and that's all his character is, and they've kind of forgotten that he's skilled in itself. And then, yeah, like the arc that he goes through in the whole female Titan, like running through the woods arc, is interesting in that, like, Levi and his whole squad is asking, like, trust us, you know, like, don't go Titan just yet. Trust that we can lead you to safety and you won't need to use that power. And it's interesting because they all end up getting killed, and he still goes on, and it's only like him and Levi left. And then he makes that decision to go into a Titan and kind of try and take down, obviously, the female Titan. And it's interesting because Levi, just in terms of like teaching him about this, is just like, yes, trust us, but I'm not gonna like give out to you for any decision you make. It's up to you. And it's interesting. It's just really interesting where they go with that. That he's just struggling with this decision, and he has to watch all these people die basically for him, and then he has to try and make amends in the end. And he does well, obviously, like by ultimately besting Annie and kind of leading to her capture, which in itself, an interesting mystery that the second she's captured, this crystal structure forms around her that seems impenetrable, and they're not going to get any information out of her. That was really interestingly done, and that's where you got some of Armin's character development in terms of being the strategist. And him as a character, again, interesting, because he's probably the one who kind of, in many ways, is the origin of like Eren wanting to be free, like the talk about what life is like outside the walls, that they've lived there the whole time. They don't know what like most Earth-like places look like. Like what does an ocean look like? What does a river look like? What does the mountain look like? All we know is really looking out a little bit, we can see really far away stuff. But everything else they know is just the inside of the walls. And I like that he's kind of the one who starts that, and he's the intelligent one, he's the strategist, but he doesn't have the power. But that they very much play on that, and that he becomes a strategist primarily, though they seem to establish that he's reasonably good with the maneuver gear and stuff like that. And then Mikasa as like Eren's kind of protector for basically all of her life, as kind of, I suppose, to pay him back for him saving her in her past. Like Mikasa's backstory is actually like really well done, and it's like this really dark moment for Eren, but showing you his determination, what he's always like. He won't. He's never one to just let something go unfought. That even though he had no right to go in there and confront all those kidnappers, but he did and killed them basically himself. Like it's a fascinating like arc, and just as this kind of moment where like it's Mikasa's kind of like awakening as a character, as a fighter. It's a big moment, and she kind of very much thanks and has such respect for Eren for kind of helping her do that. And so most of her character is almost defined by her willingness to protect Eren at all costs, as opposed to like anything just about herself. And you very much see that, and I suppose her arc is going to be about not probably just be not about having everything be revolve around Eren, that becoming her own person in a way, and not basing everything that she is around Eren. But like there's interesting things they do with these characters, but I think there's a long way to go before they're like really really strong characters. I think that they have their funny moments, their interactions in general are nice. I just feel that they're not really doing something directly with these characters. Like Mikasa, does she really have an arc across these episodes? Not so much. It's just kind of like when she chooses to fight and stuff like that, and the moment when she thinks Eren is dead, and then kind of being the first one to discover that he's the Titan. Interesting, but not as big of a character arc as I maybe want. The same with Armin, yeah, like he becomes a little bit more confident in relying more on the strategic abilities, and rightfully so, kind of going down that road in the military. And then Eren, as I said, I feel as they've just beelined on the whole Titan Shifter thing, and have missed the missed an opportunity to develop other aspects of his character. And then like Levi is cool, and like there's things there, but definitely I want more exploration, and that's really my only issue with Attack on Titan as like a show. It's the character stuff, and if I had anything else to say, it would be some of the pacing in that, like the Battle of Trost is like let's see, it goes up to part 9 here, the struggle for Trost. Yeah, but basically it's like it's 9 episodes, and it's an important arc, but I almost feel like there's so much build, there's so much episodes in each arc that they don't get enough accomplished. In that we have 2 major arcs here. It's primarily it's the Trost attack, and then it's the female Titan arc, and it's mainly those 2 incidents that we cover, and there's a bunch of time skips here or there, but imagine what they could have covered if they'd maybe tightened up some of these arcs. They could have covered a lot more ground, but in many ways, you know, like it's hard to know like how much you could leave out and stuff like that. But if I had to really be critical of this series, it would be just stuff like that, that you get into your first battle and it's 9 episodes. And that's where my thing about Eren, where what I said is that I almost wish that there was a more smaller scale engagement where you got to see Eren fight Titans on his own and just see what he's like before the Titan Shifter ability, rather than jump into the first really long battle and have them instantly kind of establish that, oh, he's not actually that good, he doesn't really get to fight that much, he gets killed basically very early on in the battle. But there's that. So yeah, that basically covers the majority of my thoughts on the show. I think it is really good. I'm really excited for season 2, but a lot of my interest does stem more from the world building stuff as opposed to the characters. I'm like okay on the characters, but I want more from them. I want more answers at the world building. I like the pacing to be a little bit better for the next season also, but and definitely the whole character death at all times is not something I really kind of tend to like focus on too much in the show, just because it's like, okay, people will bring that up, like anyone can die, but not really the case. But I'm interested to see where they go. From what I hear and have the little I've seen in the manga, it seems like the next season is going to be more like politics within the walls focused, rather than like missions to hunt Titans, which is an interesting shift for the show, which I suppose the very ending, like with the whole mystery of like Titans are part of the walls, makes sense as where the plot is going to go next. But I'm just kind of wondering where's the action going to be here going forward. But either way, I'm excited. I haven't been following news on it too seriously, just because it's been a long wait already, and I'm kind of like afraid that they're going to be like fall 2016, like end of the year. But I don't know. Either way, it is confirmed that season 2 is starting this year. The other thing is that I have watched the OVAs as well, which are pretty good. You know, they add a few little extra things. I don't think they're like essential to gaining everything from the universe, but they're pretty good as well. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to say. I'll probably do another video closer to like the reveal of like season 2 coming out, and stuff like that. And as I said, I will be reviewing it. But in the comments below, if you have any questions, like wanting to know my opinions on certain specific aspects of Attack on Titan, definitely in the comments ask me, because I absolutely couldn't cover everything that you guys want to know in just one video. But I covered, I think, my overall main thoughts on the series overall here. So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.